1 in 5. Nationally, 1 in 5 adults experience a mental illness at some point in their lives. In 2017, there were an estimated 1,400,000 suicide attempts and 47,173 deaths. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death within the United States. Yet, despite these statistics, mental health is still rarely discussed, and we have stigma to blame. In regards to mental health, stigma is when one individual views another person negatively due to their mental condition. This stigma is worsened by a lack of education. Bias inhibits mental health conditions, it inhibits medical care, and it prolongs recovery. It also turns individuals living with mental illness inward to purposely isolate themselves and refuse to ask for help. While bias turns people inward, the lack of proper mental health education ensures that those who are struggling don't know about the resources that are available to them. The stigma, as well as the lack of education and discussion, is only compounded by the active ignorance and erasure of mental health in the media. For example, how many times have you seen a news article, TV show, or movie where someone clearly struggling with mental health is regarded as insane, or helpless, or becomes violent? Let's take the movie Joker, released just last year. The audience walks away associating Fleck's violent behavior, particularly the gun violence, with his mental illness. This tells the wrong story. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the vast majority of people with mental health problems are no more likely to be violent than anyone else. In the case of Arthur Fleck, we see a person who was exposed to extreme violence as a child, as well as throughout his adult life. This exposure to violence is much more likely to have influenced Fleck's actions rather than his mental illness, but this is what stigma does. Why does this matter? Who cares how mental health is portrayed in the media? Who cares how we talk about mental health? 1 in 5. I'm going to read these statistics again. Nationally, 1 in 5 adults experience a mental illness at some point in their life. In 2017, there were an estimated 1,400,000 suicide attempts and 47,173 suicides. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death within the United States. But these are not the only statistics that matter. When we are talking about mental health, these statistics are people. Each number, each digit represents a person. 40 million people struggle with anxiety every year. 40 million. And around 16 million people suffer from depression each year. 40 million, 16 million, these people are all around us. Maybe it's a classmate or a teacher. Maybe it's someone at your church or a family member, your mom or your sister, maybe even you. These statistics are not just numbers. They represent real people. When writing this talk, I struggled. I struggled to add my own personal story. I had to consider what I viewed as being worthy of headlining. I had this idea that what I was struggling with didn't really matter. I thought to myself, oh, everyone has anxiety, or oh, everyone has depression. I knew the statistics. I knew that I was just 1 in 40 million, that I was just 1 in 16 million. And I thought, what makes you special? What makes you different? And if you have struggled with mental illness, you might have thought some of these same things. But these thoughts and ideas don't change the fact that I or anyone else have struggled. I have struggled with both anxiety and depression. I have struggled with feelings of worthlessness and self-doubt. I've spent hours, days, weeks even, obsessing over mistakes I have made, or consumed with feelings that my schoolwork wasn't good enough, or with thoughts that none of my friends actually liked me. I've been in funks so deep that it gets hard to just brush your teeth. It's difficult to wake up every day and just go to school. Now, we hear a lot about people who have struggled with their mental health so much that they have attempted or succeeded in taking their own life. And those people's stories are important, and their stories deserve to be told. Everyone's story deserves to be told. Millions of people grapple with mental illness. Everyone goes through different experiences, and we all use different coping mechanisms, and we are all subject to different environments and situations. Even though I've never attempted to end my life, and maybe I haven't struggled as much as someone else, that doesn't mean that my story isn't important. It doesn't mean that my mental health journey isn't meaningful, isn't impactful. But that is where stigma failed me. Stigma taught me that my problems were too small. It taught me that I should just stop being sad or stop worrying. It taught me to just keep it to myself. Stigma taught me not to reach out. It taught me not to ask for help. Stigma taught me that what I was going through didn't matter. Stigma taught me that my struggles weren't important enough for other people to care. The things that stigma taught me are simply not true, and they held me back. But luckily, I still managed to get help. I reached out, I started therapy, and I began my mental health journey. These struggles have made me more resilient, more caring, and more compassionate towards others. Having a good mental health was never easy for me. It's still a struggle, but it's a struggle that has shaped who I am. You can ask my counselors, therapists, teachers, friends, and they can all tell you just how much overcoming that stigma and reaching out and asking for help has improved my mental health. Now, mental health is not something that only exists behind closed doors. It is real, it is present, and it is not going away. The statistics illustrate just how significant the need for better mental health support is. How can we ignore that 1/5 of the population, 1 out of 5, will struggle with mental health issues? This is a need. Stigma is a problem that impacts everyone, and it needs to be addressed now. That being said, how do we eradicate stigma? NAMI, or the National Alliance on Mental Illness, has started a stigma-free campaign. This campaign cites 3 steps for being stigma-free. First, educate yourself and others. Having the facts about mental health is the first step in rejecting stereotypes and stigma. Secondly, work to see the person, not their conditions or illnesses. Being able to understand what someone is going through and being able to empathize with them is much more meaningful than just understanding a condition. The third and final step is to speak out. Become an advocate for better legislation or policy that assists and protects those with mental illnesses. Simply taking these 3 steps against stigma will have a meaningful impact on those struggling with their mental health. These steps will empower more people to reach out and encourage a broader acceptance of mental illnesses. Mental illness is an issue we have turned a blind eye to for too long. It is time to take action against stigma.